I had to take the battery out to get to this lamp here that I want to do some work on, and found this. We have quite a mess there, and to tell you the truth, I don't know how that comes apart. This is all one unit that I can tell all the way around. There's bolts in various places, but I have yet to figure out how to get that out so I can do some repairs. Boy, these cars are really overbuilt. This is a little bit ridiculous. Yeah, I just stripped the nut and the bolt heads on the inner fender well there. So now I got an additional problem. I'm dealing with some rust. I finally found some major rust. This battery tray is gone. And that by itself is a whole structural piece so far that I can tell. It's really complicated. It's even welded to this, and this is welded to here, so I don't know what the secret is yet. I'll bring you back if I can figure it out. The rust pile you see is the remnants of what's left of the battery tray. And the difficulty in this repair is the battery tray is not separate. It is part of what they call the cradle. That's the whole assembly for the radiator. Anyway, what we have to decide is how we're going to fix this. There is only one video online, a guy replacing his '68 Cadillac tray, and his was not as bad as this one. He had some good videos, some good tips, because he showed all his mistakes, and I appreciate that whenever they do that, so we can learn from them. So what I'm using is a sharp chisel and just breaking away at the welds along the way. Like I said, or I may have mentioned, there's no bolts or anything holding this tray in. It's all part of the cradle assembly. So here's a DIY setup for sure. A neighbor of mine moved years ago and gave me this, what I think is a piece of a metal brake, because it's got an angle on the back side of this. This table came off of an old drill press that broke, but I saved the table so I could use it for this type of work. And now it's a trick of finding something straight to bend that over. But I got these in the way, which can be moved. It's just there for now until I decide how I'm going to do this. With the limited tools that I have, now all I'm trying to do is get something formed. Like I said, I can adjust as I go, like now, to get these out of the way. Okay, I just took the clamps off, used the same table, putting the work where I need to it. I can continue to bend. And the first bend, we can adjust now. This by hand, that is one reason I picked thinner the two metals I have. It's easier to work with. And by the time we get some bends and everything in it, it'll be strong. What I've got to do now is bend this tab, both of them, at least temporarily, so I can get it in the cavity I'm working with to check my measurements. I'm just using the end of the same bar that I've been using. We don't need a third or a fourth side because I have to graft this into some existing wood, and that's going to, or wood, yeah, metal, and that's going to depend on how everything else goes, so we'll do that later. Alright, after some more bending and banging, this is the basic shape. It's not pretty right now, it never will be, but it's going to be better. I will dress up the edges and close up these corners. This end here is cut to graft into the existing car, but it's wrong. Cut way too much. Well, cut too much. I don't know if you can see that line I scribed in there. That's where the battery sits, so I might be able to do something to cover up that. I do need to graft it in, however. But anyway, let me set this in here, or in there, and I need to work on the bracket that fits up underneath here. I got a block of wood underneath to kind of, yeah, I'm afraid of that, keep it stable. not stable. Back out here. Sharp bits and thin metal, it's going to catch like that, so I'm glad I was ready for it. There you go. Not good. Of course, what you're working on is that radius there, try to make it look a little cleaner. Alright, I'll do the rest of them. There is a bracket that I want to take advantage of to increase the strength, and we'll go do a test fit now. Obviously, we're going to clean up the edges, make it look a little more professional. What I've been doing is a combination of using these pliers here to get inside and bend this lip back. So I left extra material so I could bend this over, and that creates a little nicer line from the visual, you know, the part that you see when you look at the tray. You'll have hopefully some straight lines here, and then what's underneath I can trim up, but you won't see those. What I've got to do now is make a round hole into a square so that this carriage bolt will fit down in there and be flush as we can make it, because the battery's got to sit on top. So nothing more than a round hole with a drill bit and then square file and start going at it. Alright, in and out of that hole 1,000 times seems like, and I'm pretty satisfied with the fit. I wish I would have left some more material up here. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I cut on the wrong side of the line, which is typical of me. I'm not going backwards at this point. That is never going to show underneath the battery. However, I am going to do something to cover up that gap. I'm not going to be happy with that like that. Alright, what I came up with was just a simple bend that I riveted on the back side, and this hides all the openings and things that I didn't allow for. And all it is just riveted on the back side, and since it's just basically a trim piece, it doesn't need to be strong or anything, but it's strong enough for what we need. So the next thing is I have to cut out an area here to access a bolt in the future, and this is just about ready for paint. I've got to do a couple more test fits, but it's getting there. Alright, what I did here is painted with a brush navel jelly, set for the prescribed 10 minutes, then wash it off with water, let that dry using the air gun, and now I sprayed it with a rust inhibitor, and that takes 24 hours to dry before you can top coat. That'll turn black, so I'll bring you back so we can start the next step. I have the battery area cleaned up, rust preventative applied, waited 24 hours. Now it's been painted with a truck bed paint, and I've been using that lately on chassis parts and things like this because it does dry to a flat sheen, and it also dries quickly, and it's pretty tough, and it's thick enough that it will cover some of the rust imperfections on the metal, so it makes it look a little smoother. So that's been working out pretty good. So next thing now is just to let this dry, and then I'll put this in there, and then I'm not going to weld it. You probably figured that out by now. I'm just going to rivet it in a few places because it's pretty tight fit anyway, and with the shelf and the bracket and everything that goes in there, it'll be plenty strong. And there it is finished, except for a way to tie the battery down, which is probably not super necessary. It fits in there pretty tight with the hood closed. But anyway, that's the finished product up to this point.